Muy buenos días a todas las personas que empiezan a unirse a nuestro webinar informativo el día de hoy. Es un honor tenerlos a todos ustedes con nosotros en este espacio, donde vamos a explorar temas clave relacionados con todas las oportunidades que nos ofrecen las diferentes instituciones en el mundo con las que Colfuturo tiene acuerdos de cooperación. Hoy, en representación de North Carolina State University, nos acompaña Haley Hardenbrook y Peter Harris. Ellos se unen a Colfuturo en esta ocasión para compartir todo su conocimiento, su experticia y las perspectivas que enriquecerán todo el proyecto académico de los potenciales en Colombia. Abordarán temas relacionados a oferta académica, opciones de financiación, opciones de hospedaje, becas y bueno, todas las recomendaciones que desde su experiencia consideren útiles para las personas que quieran realizar un posgrado en este país y en esta institución. Me presento, mi nombre es Karen Martínez, hago parte del equipo de Consejería Académica y Relaciones Internacionales en Colfuturo y voy a moderar este webinar. Así que por favor, si tienen alguna inquietud, alguna duda para nuestros panelistas, no duden en ponerla en el cajón de Q&A y con mucho gusto se las transmitiré al final de la sesión para dar respuesta y solución a todas ellas. Les recuerdo a todos que estamos cerrando este mes de noviembre y también este 2024 con webinars informativos sobre las universidades de convenio, específicamente aquellas ubicadas en Estados Unidos. Y también tenemos sesiones preparatorias previas a nuestra próxima convocatoria en el 2025, así que están todos invitadísimos a ser partícipes de estos espacios que sé que serán de gran valor para todos. Ya para pasar al tema que nos compete en esta ocasión y dar inicio a esta sesión, les cuento a todos que en el marco de nuestro acuerdo de cooperación con North Carolina State University, la universidad otorgará para hasta 3 beneficiarios en programas de maestría la porción de out-of-state tuition y el beneficiario va a cancelar como un estudiante in-state. Tanto Hailey como Peter nos van a ayudar a solucionar todas las inquietudes y también a confirmar toda la información que acabo de presentarles, hablarnos a profundidad sobre el convenio que tiene Colfuturo con la institución. Así que nuevamente aprovechen, saquen el máximo potencial a este espacio y pregunten todo lo que quieran, que con mucho gusto nuestros panelistas nos van a ayudar a solucionar sus inquietudes. Sin mayor preámbulo, Hailey, Peter, thank you so much for being here today with us. We are so happy to have you in this space, in this webinar, so you can go ahead and start your presentation.
Thank you, Karen.
All right, thank you, everybody. So we can go ahead and get started. We are from North Carolina State University, or NC State University, as we call it. And I will let Dr. Harris introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone, and it's a pleasure to meet you all virtually. My name is Peter Harris, and I'm Dean of the Graduate School here at NC State, as well as a professor of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences.
And I am Haley Hardenbrook. I'm the International Admissions Manager in the graduate school. So we're going to talk to you today about everything NC State. You're going to hear about our academics, our admissions process, our funding agreement with COLFUTURO, and we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions. So we'll go ahead and get started. And we wanted to start by sharing where we're located, because you may not be as familiar with North Carolina as you are with some other states in the U.S. So we're on the east coast of the United States. This is the Atlantic Ocean on the right side here, and we're about halfway up. So we're very close to Washington, D.C., the capital of the U.S., and we're very well connected to other major cities on the East Coast, like New York City, like Miami, like Boston. We have multiple international airports in our state, and we're part of the Amtrak railway system. We also have a wonderful quality of life here. We have a great climate because we are right in the middle of the country, so it doesn't get too hot or too cold. We have all 4 seasons. You can see in this picture here in the bottom right-hand corner, that's our fall season, and the leaves change colors. We have these bright reds and yellows and oranges, and it's a really beautiful time of year. We also have a nice quality of life because the cost of living here is much lower than the national average. So in general, you will spend less money on your housing and food costs in North Carolina than you will in other places in the US. We also are just, have a ton of natural beauty. You can see here another picture from our coast, our beach region. So we are very special in that we have both mountains and the beach in the same state, because most other states in the US are landlocked. So that is something that really makes North Carolina stand out. And because of the nice weather, everyone's outside all the time. So there's all kinds of outdoor activities to take advantage of, and it's a great way to meet people. These are just some pictures so you can see the beauty for yourself. In the top corner here is our Blue Ridge Mountains, which is the mountain range on the western side of our state, and the parkway is that curving road that goes through it. And these are pictures from the coast Jockey's Ridge is the name of this giant sand dune. It's actually much taller than it looks in this picture, and people come from all over to go to the top and slide down. It's a major tourist attraction. And then in the middle part of our state down here is the Piedmont region, where we have a lot of farmland. We have a big wine industry. It's also where our two largest cities are located. So Raleigh is the capital, which is where our university is, and Charlotte is actually the largest city in the state. It's a major banking industry in the state. So there's a lot of industry here, businesses, and employers who hire our students. So about employment and industry in the state, we just wanted to share that North Carolina is one of the best business climates in the US. There are a ton of businesses here. We keep being ranked the best place to get a job, the best city to live in, best place to work. A lot of major companies have their headquarters here. And we're also home to Research Triangle Park, which is the largest research park in the United States. There are over 7,000 companies there, again, many which hire our students for internships and jobs when they graduate. And they come from all sorts of industries. So some of the major ones in North Carolina include aerospace, automotive, IT, biotechnology, financial services. So lots of opportunities for you here in North Carolina. And then we know that diversity and safety is important to you as it is to us. So we just wanted to share a little bit of that information with you. Over 24,000 students chose to study in North Carolina last year. So that does rank us the 15th largest international student population by state. So there are 50 states in the US, so we're the 15th out of 50. So many students do choose to come here. On our campus specifically, we have over 4,000 international students. So it is one of the largest international student populations out of any university in the state of North Carolina. And 1/3 of our graduate students are international, and many come from Colombia. So there's a community here waiting for you. In terms of safety, North Carolina is a very safe state, and Raleigh is very safe. We're the second safest capital city in the United States. We have our own program on campus. We have a Safe at NC State program from our Office of Equity and Diversity, and our campus police services offer many services as well to keep our students safe. And so with that, I will turn it over to Dean Harries to share more about NC State.
Thank you for that introduction, Haley. And just to tell you a little bit more about NC State, as Haley mentioned, international students are an important component of our graduate population. I mean, we really pride ourselves on being a STEM-focused university that wants to bring the best and the brightest students from across the globe to help us develop our graduate culture. So in terms of global universities, we're in the top 1%. We're very highly rated in both undergraduate and graduate entrepreneurship. We are the top university in the Southeast for those two components. So one of the things that you'll hear about NC State is that we're the think and do university. And I think that really does encapsulate what we're trying to accomplish with our students, is to not only train them to be at the cutting edge of whatever their academic discipline is, but also to train them to apply that knowledge in a way that really benefits North Carolina, the US, and the world, and the hope that they will bring that knowledge back to if they're returning to their country of origin, bringing that there and helping those places advance as well. As Haley mentioned before, we're a great city for jobs, not only within Raleigh, but that encompasses the whole Research Triangle area that is really anchored by NC State, UNC, Chapel Hill, and Duke. And because it is so STEM focused, many of the people who do get jobs there do come from NC State. And, it's a great place to live, as Haley also discussed. I mean, as I mentioned, we are a leader in STEM fields with a real strength in a variety of areas that really allow that think and do mentality to be applied, whether that's engineering. We're the last college of textiles left in the country. whether that's agriculture, business, or veterinary medicine. I mean, we also have pronounced strengths in the physical and biological sciences. So we are a comprehensive STEM university. Because of the talent of our students, we have a lot of employers visiting our campus who want to basically hire the people who we are producing. We're number 13 in terms of graduates hired by the top 25 companies in Silicon Valley. Overall, we're rated number 32 among public universities in the United States. And once again, that connection to training students for their careers, we're also really highly rated, number 3 as the best place for business and careers, and the metro area there is really critical to that. Could I have the next slide, Haley? We are also very student focused. I mean, although our overall student population is now above 37,000 students, we are the biggest institution in North Carolina. Graduate students comprise 10,000 of those students. It has a really strong student to faculty ratio that is even more pronounced in many programs at the graduate level. But in terms of being student focused, we also want our students to have the ability to get engaged with things that matter to them. So we have over 700 student organizations, some of them very much focused on students from Latin America, both domestic students as well as international students. Two of the most well-known are Mi Familia, as well as a recently formed group, a Latin American Graduate Student Association that is really promoting not only the community among that group, but also trying to build advocacy for the various issues that matter to students in that organization. We have a variety of university consortia that broaden the opportunities that our students have. You're going to get tired of me saying think and do, but that really is something that resonates throughout everything that we do, is that we build these consortia so that our students have additional opportunities, not just within their academic programs, but also once they're done in terms of promoting their career growth and so on. We do have an academic support coordinator for international students. We realize that there can be challenges that domestic students don't have in terms of adjusting to graduate work. That's not to say that all students don't need to make an adjustment, but we want to be sure that our academic students have additional support if it's needed. And right now that role is filled by Tony Schurer, and he has engaged with multiple students in helping them move forward successfully. I mean, we want our students to graduate, and we pride ourselves on getting them finished. In addition, we have multiple support offices that really help out international students, whether that's initially through the admission process and dealing with visas. Really, Haley is our point person for that. Our Office of International Scholars runs an orientation specifically for international students, and we help in a variety of areas around employment, immigration, and also tax issues. So we really try to have a series of wraparound services. And for instance, we also have assistance programs through a variety of sources to help out students should they run into either food or housing insecurity. So, once again, we know that students can't be successful without assistance there. Next slide, Amy. Let's talk a little bit about the academic offerings that NC State has. At the graduate level, we have over 200 graduate programs. So, I mean, we have offerings for virtually any student out there. The link is right here to our graduate catalog. where you can search for graduate programs. We've recently revamped that whole process, and hopefully, that'll allow you to find what you're looking for. Although certainly there are people like me and Haley who are more than willing to help you out trying to navigate that as well. But I think I'm not going to go through all the programs on the right there, but I think you can see that we have a broad range of areas that we concentrate on, and I encourage you all to take a look at that catalog and look and figure out, this is where my interests lie. One thing that we also offer for students whose English may not be as strong as necessary to enter our graduate programs is what's known as the Intensive English Program, abbreviated as the IEP pathway. It allows students, for instance, to come for a semester to focus not exclusively, but largely on increasing your English language skills. We want to be sure that language is not what is holding students back. So there is the opportunity to move through that program first in order to get to a point where you can effectively navigate a graduate program without language being a barrier. And you can see the link there to that program if you want to find out more about it. Let's talk about research at NC State. We are what's known as a Carnegie Tier 1 research university. And that means within that classification that we have very high research activities. In terms of universities within the United States, only 4% of them are classified that way. So, research is really embedded in the DNA of our university. And let's talk about some of the more details around what that actually means. So in terms of research highlights from 2022, and to be honest, we've only gone up from there, but this is when the official results are submitted. We currently have over $500 million in research expenditures. And a considerable amount of that money actually goes to supporting graduate students, especially PhD students, who are engaging in that research endeavor. And as a grad school and as a university, we are attempting to find high quality academic talent from around the globe. And, given the experience, some of it personal, the best graduate student I ever had was from Colombia. He currently teaches at AFIT in Medellin. I think it's known that there is a huge amount of talent in Colombia, and we want to tap into that. And certainly at the PhD level, especially, we have other lines of support that would go beyond what COLFUTURO may be able to supply. We also, in 2022, we had $1.5 billion in proposals submitted to various funding agencies, both at the state and at the federal level. And we received $409 million in research awards. Another thing, once again, mirroring that think and do attitude, is that we had 18 startups launched. A number of those involved the relationships between faculty and their graduate students to launch these endeavors. So there tends to be a close connection between the graduate student research engine and what we're doing as an institution to bring those ideas to the marketplace in a variety of ways. And the university invests a significant amount in making that happen, not only in terms of expertise, but we also have competitions to provide some seed funding to get these things launched. If we think about our strategic research areas, they're sort of set up here as 5 different areas, but we are very much an interdisciplinary campus because we realize that if we're going to take on these global challenges, we can't do that within a single discipline. So we have a senior vice provost for interdisciplinary initiatives. But if we sort of think about who we are as a university, we do focus on 5 major areas. But once again, those encompass a huge range of different degree programs and expertise that underlie those elements. So one of them is creating safe, secure, and intelligent systems, and those involve, everything from computer science to, for instance, psychology in terms of thinking about not only how do we need to do things from a technical standpoint, but how does it impact people? Another element is designing healthy and resilient societies, be that through precision medicine. We're launching a new degree program in the near future called Global One Health that really focuses around how, for instance, our agriculture and animal components intersect with human health. A big thing for us is harnessing data for decision making. And certainly there we have a lot of expertise, and we are IBM's center in the US for quantum computing that helps to promote that sort of development. Enriching the human experience is, of course, incredibly important. How do we take our academic abilities to really make a higher quality life for humans across the globe? And finally, which really centers around a lot of the elements on our campus, are driving food, water, and energy solutions. We recently opened a top of the line plant sciences building that has all the things that are needed to really look at these elements around food, water, and energy, because agriculture actually, uses a lot of water, a lot of energy to make things work. And especially within the context of climate change, how do we help our farmers adapt to those changes? So I think you can get here a pretty good sense of the wide-ranging and big problems we're trying to address. And, we're looking for students with those interests to join us to tackle those issues. We are also the North Carolina Space Grant Institution, and we work closely with NASA and other areas to help develop the academic muscle that we need to remain at the cutting edge in those areas. And 2 of our graduates are astronauts now within the NASA system. Christina Koch is probably the most famous, and she's one of the astronauts that's set to go to the moon, and she has set individual records as well. And we're extremely proud of her and always looking for additional students to take part in one of these elements that I think is really in a microcosm what makes this place so special. Next slide. Of course, students want to know, if they're coming here, like, what do I do after I'm done? And so, of course, employment prospects is a pretty critical element that we want people to think about. One of the really special things about NC State, and it's not just because the graduate school is centered on it, but Centennial Campus is an amazing way of integrating industry, government agencies, state agencies within the academic context. Most institutions that have built a research park have done that very much divorced from the campus itself. NC State has taken on a very different model in that, we have buildings that have academic floors on them, startup companies, well-established companies, graduate research offices, and so on, all in a building. And, our idea is that the more we can have those groups interacting, the better it is for our campus, for our students, for our faculty, and how that moves forward. And going back to think and do once again, these companies also work in providing access to internships because they have such accessibility to our students. According to QS rankings, we produce very employable graduates. I think in part that is our STEM focus, but I think it also goes back to the interdisciplinarity and how we think about training students to think outside the box, work in teams, work with people from different disciplines to really come to the best solutions. We also have a career development center, excuse me, as well as within the grad school, a professional development team that is assisted to preparing you for whatever your careers are, whether that is in academia, in industry, in government. We have a wide variety of workshops and practica and certificates that allow you to build up those often called soft skills, but to me, I would consider them transferable skills. Soft skills suggest that they're really easy to learn, but they're probably harder to learn than what your academic program demands. So, but we strongly encourage our students to take advantage of these opportunities to augment what they're learning academically with a broader set of skills that employers are looking for. Talking a little bit more about Centennial Campus, and this is just a bird's eye view of what that campus looks like. Our College of Engineering is largely housed on this campus. We also have an incredible library called Hunt Library that, if you ever come visit this campus, you really need to see because it is the future of how learning is going to happen. And the College of Textiles is housed here, but for instance, there are industries like Hitachi, Lexus and Nexus has their East Coast headquarters on our campus. Important companies like Red Hat started there. They were initiated on this campus and now are in downtown Raleigh in a huge building because of the way they've grown. And, they were also bought by IBM. So this is really sort of the hub of the growth of academic and entrepreneurship opportunities because of the culture that exists here. That's not to say that we don't have a nice main campus too, but I think this really embodies who we are as an institution. If we look at professional development, which I alluded to before in terms of what the graduate school has to offer, we have a huge number of programs that focus on teaching, writing, career support, leadership. We have a program called Preparing the Professoriate, which for those of you who might be interested in moving on academically, we help students prepare to that. We have a nationally acclaimed Accelerate to Industry program, which we started here and now has almost 40 other university partners across the US. So, we really like to think that we're on the cutting edge. And we also we place a lot of emphasis on the well-being of our students. And so not only do we run a series of Wellness Wednesdays, but we also have a counselor embedded within the graduate school, specifically there to help graduate students should they have issues and challenges that they need help getting through. Let me turn it back to Haley, who knows much more about this than I do.
Thank you, Dean Harry. So that was a lot of information. As you can see, there are a lot of opportunities across a diverse range of academics. So hopefully you heard something that piqued your interest and maybe you're thinking about applying. So we wanted to just give you a little bit of information about the application process. This is everything that you would need to apply to our university. So we do have an online application form that you submit online and pay your fee there. And then you do have to provide these supplemental materials. So we just need to see your academic records or your transcripts. We do not require evaluations. So you do not have to worry about having your academic transcript evaluated as long as it is in English and so that we can read it. That's all we need. And you can apply with unofficial transcripts. We also require that every non-US citizen submit English test scores. So the 3 tests that we accept are IELTS, TOEFL, and Duolingo. So you would need to take one of those tests and provide your scores for that. We do also require 3 letters of recommendation, and these should come from an academic source or a professional reference if you've been working, but be thinking about who you're going to ask for those letters of recommendation because this is all due by the deadline. So everything has to be in by your program's deadline. We also require a personal statement, which is just a 1-page essay about why you're interested in our university and why you're a good fit for the program. Also your resume or CV. And then finally, some of our programs do require standardized tests, the most common of which is the GRE, if you've heard of that. And our business program does require the GMAT. But again, only some of our programs require these tests. So you will have to ask the program you're interested in directly if they require this exam or not. And then here is just a flow chart for you so you can get an idea of what that application process looks like from start to finish. So again, after you submit your online application and all the forms and all the test scores by the deadline, it goes to your department for review. It is your academic department who is making the decision about whether or not they want to admit you. So at this point, they will either deny admission or they will give you a recommendation of admission and you'll be notified. So we do call it recommended for admission, but essentially you have an offer of admission at that point. There are just a few additional steps that you have to take to finalize your admission. So at that point, your application will come to us in the graduate school, and we will ask you for a few additional pieces of information. One of those is your proof of funding. So that's what this certificate of financial responsibility is. And this is where you tell us maybe you have a scholarship from COLFUTURO or a loan, and we're going to talk about funding more in just 1 minute. But this is where you provide us with your funding so that we can issue your I-20 visa document that allows you to apply for the student visa. Everything is approved within a week at most, as long as you've submitted the forms that you need to. Again, we will issue you that I-20, that's that visa eligibility document, and go and apply for your student visa. Also, at this point is when we'll request your official transcript. So that's when you'll need your school to send us your official copies of your transcripts at that time. But you'll do the visa process, get enrolled in classes, and you'll show up in time for orientation, which usually takes place the week before classes begin. So this is an overall, view of the timeline here, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you have on this. Now, I promised we're going to talk about funding, so we'll jump into that. First, COLFUTURO, so that's why we're all here today. This is the process if you wanted to apply. So you first have to apply for our program. You have to apply for a graduate degree at NC State University. That's the first step. Then you can go apply for the COLFUTURO funding. So their application usually opens about mid-January and is open through the month of February. So it's usually open about a month and a half. But check with them directly about what their exact dates are because it does vary slightly from year to year. But you'll want to submit that application second, and then it will take several months to hear a decision. So COLFUTURO starts making their decisions, about mid-May. That's also during this time when NC State University is reviewing your application for admission. And together, the university and COLFUTURO will pick 3 students to receive this special type of funding. If you are selected, our university will pay your out-of-state tuition, and COLFUTURO will pay your in-state tuition, your student fees, and provide you with a living stipend that will help you pay for your housing and food. This usually covers almost all of your costs, so there shouldn't be too much left. But if if there is a little bit left, it would be up to the student to cover those remaining costs or look for additional scholarships or fellowship opportunities to help with that. Now, we do have other types of funding, so maybe you get an offer of admission, but you don't get the COLFUTURO funding. Our university does have other funding available to help our graduate students. So we have many, many teaching and research assistantships, which if you're not familiar with the term assistantship, think of it like a working scholarship. So your department will pay for your tuition and give you money to help you pay for your living expenses. But in return, you are working for the department, usually about 20 hours each week. But many, many of our graduate students receive those types of positions. We also have fellowships available, which are the same thing as scholarships. We just call them fellowships. One of those includes a fellowship just for international students, for international PhD students. It's our Mansour Fellowship. But that's just one of several fellowships that we have at the university. We also have a fellowship office that helps you apply for external fellowships. So it just means external to the university. So other sources of funding, government grants, that kind of thing, they will help you apply, and then you can use that towards your second year. So usually, you're not going to get that money in time for your first year, but it can help pay for your second year and on. We also have flexible payment options. So if you aren't having to pay your tuition yourself, we do offer payment plans so you can break the payments down into smaller chunks. You can pay by credit card. You can pay in your local currency, so you don't have to pay a currency conversion and pay any fees for that. We also allow students to deduct their student fees from their payroll, from their stipend, if you have an assistantship. So there are funding opportunities at our university if you do not receive the COLFUTURO funding. And then we wanted to share with you just some of the resources that we have for our admitted students. Again, because we have so many international students on campus, we have multiple offices that are here just to support you. So we want to tell you about some of those. The first one is our Packing Up series. So this is our pre-arrival webinar series. Once you're admitted by the department, you will start getting invitations to these webinars, and they go on for several months leading up to when your program begins. And this is just some of the topics. We actually have even more than this. They happen about once a week leading up to your start. So we go into detail on things like how to find housing, how to find a campus job if you want one, how to budget and save money, how to enroll in your courses, and what to expect when you're traveling and entering the US at customs and immigration. So we give you a lot of detailed information on these. It's a chance to get FaceTime, with someone at the university to ask your questions. We also will bring in our current international students, so you can speak to current students at the university and hear what it's like to be a student on our campus. So you will start receiving invitations to these webinars once you're admitted by your department. We also have something that we call Wolfpack Global Connect. So we are the Wolfpack. That's our mascot, a wolf. We call ourselves the Wolfpack, and we invite all of our incoming international students to this gallery. You can create a profile, and then once you create a profile, you can see the gallery of all the other incoming students. And once you can see the gallery, you can sort the profiles, filter. So maybe you can look for students just from Colombia if you want to see if there's anyone else coming from your country, or you can look for your program so you can see all the other international students that are starting in your program that semester, or you can search by other things. And then you're welcome to reach out to those students. So, you can connect with them by email or maybe social media if they provide that. So we really, we put you in touch with these other incoming students so that you already maybe know some people when you arrive. You can find travel buddies or maybe potential roommates, and you'll get to meet them in person at international orientation. And then we were asked to talk about housing. We know this is a question that many students have. So we do have on-campus housing, but I have to warn you that it is limited and it does go very quickly. So most of our graduate students actually end up living off campus, but we have a ton of student housing right around the edge of the university, just within walking distance of campus. And we help you find that housing. So again, we have that pre-arrival webinar. We have a whole guide that you can view. We have a whole web page to help you find apartments. If you're on Facebook, we have a Facebook group. And then we also recommend that you connect with those student organizations that Dean Harries mentioned earlier, so like Mi Familia or the Latin American Student Association. Those are current students who are more than happy to connect you with resources, maybe even be a roommate. So we help you with this process. So don't be stressing about it because you'll receive much more information about it. Okay, and so that's it. I know that's a ton of information. So maybe, where do you go from here? What are your next steps? These are just some suggestions for things that you can do next. So if you want to take a virtual tour of our campus and see what it looks like, here's the website for that. We do have some current international students who we call our ambassadors, who are willing to talk to anybody who's interested in coming to the university. They can share their perspective. I think one of them is from Colombia, so you can visit this webpage here. Reach out to any of those students if you'd like to hear what it's like to be an international student on our campus. We have here the entire list of all of our graduate programs. So again, we have over 200. We encourage you to dig deep into those. On this list, by clicking on any program that you're interested in, you can find much more detailed information. So we actually list out the classes that you would be taking. We list the professors and the program. They list out their admissions requirements, and then they have their contact information. So if you want to reach out to the director of the program or the admissions counselor for the program, you can do that as well. Many of our programs also have their own information sessions that they will do virtually, so you can get more details about those. So we invite you to attend those as well. Or if you're ready to apply, here's the link to the online application. And so with that, we are now happy to take any questions that you might have.
Can I just add one more thing quickly, Haley? Especially if you're a PhD student, I would encourage you to get in touch with what's known as the director of graduate programs. I've put that link in the chat just to see what sort of opportunities exist. And I think it would be helpful also for you to figure out, especially at the PhD level, which faculty members research you're most interested in. And to start making some connections with those faculty members. But
Perfect.
thank
Thank
you
you
all.
so much. Okay, Haley, Peter, thank you so much for this excellent presentation and information. So yes, we have some questions for you through social media. So
Okay.
the first question that we have is, well, you mentioned, Haley, that for the admission process, students will need to do a personal statement essay, right? What advice can you give them for the elaboration of this document?
That's a great question. We actually have a whole separate webinar on how to write a really strong personal statement. So if you want to reach out to me, I can send you the recording for that webinar as well. But we do, it's a lot of information that you have to fit into one page. And so, just to briefly keep it short here, but you want to, first explain your background, why you're interested in this field and this program specifically at NC State. And then you need to give specific examples of things that you've done for why you're a good match. So demonstrate your interest, demonstrate your match to the program using specifics, and then make sure that you are tailoring your personal statement essay to the program you're applying for. So you want to specifically mention, what about NC State or what about this program interests you, or what professors would you like to work with? It needs to be clear that you wrote this essay for NC State and not for another school. So just make sure you're spending the time to tailor it appropriately.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and the one thing that I would add,
Yeah.
we are a research-focused institution, as I talked about before. So especially for the PhD level, like being able to talk about what sort of previous research experiences you have is really helpful in the faculty thinking about, how would this person integrate with the research that I'm doing and with my research group. So that's something to certainly articulate in the personal statement as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Well, okay, Laura asks, do we need a job experience to get in?
I would say no. You need the academic experience, right? I mean, it can be very helpful in terms of having real world experience, but I would say the vast majority of our graduate students who are admitted are basically moving right from their undergraduate careers into their graduate careers. So, I mean, it's certainly not a requirement. I mean, the faculty are going to be more interested in what is your academic training and how successful have you been in that area.
Yeah. Perfect.
And, that sort of, sorry, Haley, I just want to add one more thing. I think that also relates to sort of who do you ask to write letters of recommendation?
Mhm.
I mean, I think first of all, you need to think about who can write strong ones, but obviously if you have a research experience, having a faculty member that can back up, what you wrote is really critical.
Haley, do you want to add something?
No, well, I was just going to add that I think the only program that does require it is our MBA. So if you're applying for business administration, they do want 2 years of work experience. But as Dean Harry said otherwise, it's okay if you don't have it. Not to say that it's not a great thing if you do, and you can talk about what that work experience has added to your background.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, here we have another question, and it's if I want to start studying in 2025, when should I apply to your university?
That's a great question. So our fall semester begins in August. So if you wanted to start August 2025 at our university, most of our applications for that close 6 to 9 months before August. So that means our deadlines are coming up starting in December. So they are coming up quite soon. Some of them will be open until March, but many of our, engineering programs and data science programs close earlier. So 6 to 9 months generally before when you want to start your program.
And I think especially if you're interested in getting funding, the earlier you apply, the better. Like some have longer deadlines, but they've made their funding decisions for people who applied, let's say by February 1st. So you do need to look carefully at the deadlines for individual programs. And I also just want to add the bulk of our graduate students start in the fall semester. We do have people who are admitted for spring, but most people start in the fall, and that's just sort of the normal timing, at least for us.
Perfect, Peter. Thank you. Well, regarding the agreement with COLFUTURO, how do you select the only 3 students that will be received the benefit?
Um, I, I say we look at the strength of the overall records and we also talk with the departments about who they think are good fits for their department. So I think we use a variety of lines of information about it. I mean, I will also add that we typically haven't used all the slots that we have. And so apply.
Perfect. Well, I have the last question, and it's about job. It is possible that students work meanwhile they are studying?
Um, I'll start. Haley, you might want to. I mean, for international students, they are not allowed to work unless they have an on-campus job. I mean, that's just federal government restrictions, right? So an international student can work up to 20 hours on campus. Many of them have what we call graduate assistantships. And then, I will add most of the people who have those are in our PhD level programs. We have some funding at the master's level, but not as much. And we do have campus jobs that students can get, and they tend not to be academically oriented, but they certainly help in terms of supplying students with additional funding. I mean, but through that work. And so that needs to be balanced with the academic requirements of a program. We don't want some person to work, have their job take over the academic parts of their lives. Because, I mean, that's why people are coming here is really for that academic growth.
Perfect.
And I'll just add to what Dean Harry said is that After your first year, you can work off campus and do internships and summer jobs. So it's that first year where he said you're only allowed to work on campus, and that's a U.S. government requirement. There's nothing the university can do about that. But after your first year in your program, you can apply for summer internships or other jobs off campus, and we do have a co-op office that helps students find those jobs, and we authorize you to do that as an international student. So you do have that opportunity after your first year in your program.
That's perfect. Well, thank you so much. We didn't have any more question for you, so I want to extend my heartfelt thank you for our incredible panelists for sharing their knowledge and the perspectives. Your contributions have truly enriched the academic project of all our Colombian people here in COLFUTURO, so we look forward to welcoming you to our future events. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Karen, and to the students who are listening to this for taking part in the process. We certainly, enjoyed introducing you to NC State, and, please follow up with us if you have any questions.
Yes, just thank you all though. We love our Colombian students. We make multiple trips there each year. I was just there last month actually, so we're happy to connect. Please don't hesitate to email us or reach out if you have any other questions.
Thank you so much. Y a todos nuestros asistentes también mil gracias por su participación y su interés. Esperamos que se sigan conectando en estos espacios tan productivos para todos. Que tengan una feliz tarde. Thank you, Haley and Peter. How are you?
Thank
Take care,
you.
everybody. Be well.
Bye.